So recently Hohem released a new mobile phone gimbal, the iSteady M7. And if you were wondering what the key differences are between the iSteady M7 and the older iSteady M6, which is still a great gimbal by the way, in this video I'm going to highlight the main differences so that you can decide whether you want to stick with the iSteady M6 or go for the M7. I will say though that there is two features that make the iSteady M7 quite a significant upgrade from the M6, and it does depend on how you shoot and where you shoot. Before I get onto that though, in terms of the similarities, both gimbals have the 360 infinite rotation, which is great when you want to move around the frame completely unobstructed. And they both do that cool flip thing where you can move the gimbal arm out of the way if you want to shoot with the wide angle lens, which would otherwise be seen in the frame, or if you just want to shoot at very low awkward angles. So one of those significant upgrades comes down to the fact that the M7 has a detachable remote control, whereas the M6 doesn't. This is great for a number of reasons, mainly because the remote also gives you a real-time preview so that you can make sure that you're correctly in the frame when you're using the rear camera for vlogging, or if you're far from the gimbal and you want to frame up your shot and make sure that you're properly positioned. This is such a great feature if you're Billy No Mates and you film by yourself most of the time or all of the time, pretty much like me. Plus, the M7 also has a full colour touchscreen display, whereas the M6 has a monochrome screen, which is also smaller than the M7. When it comes to tracking, both gimbals have person tracking, which can be used with any camera app, and with the M7 you can use object tracking with any camera app as well. But if you wanted to use object tracking and you were going to go with the M6, you'd need to use the Hohem Joy app to get access to that feature, because it doesn't work with a third-party camera app. Now, the other reason that you might actually want to choose the M7 over the M6 comes down to how you film. If you love to get creative shots or shots at awkward angles, then having an extension pole is incredibly useful. With the M6, you'd actually have to attach one to the 1/4 thread hole at the bottom of the gimbal, whereas with the M7, it has a 193mm built-in extension pole, which just makes it so much easier and quicker to get creative shots and any awkward shots. The next difference comes down to settings and parameters. So the M7 has quick settings on the touchscreen, which is really handy when you want to quickly switch the gimbal speed or change the shooting scenario, like if you wanted to do a rotating shot or a panorama or a time lapse. Alright, so I've got the Hohem iSteady M7, and what I want to do is a very quick motion lapse, and I'm not going to do it taking photos, I'm going to do it with video and just basically set points from A, B to C, and so you can just see how you can get those nice kind of, if you just don't want a static shot and you just want a bit of movement in your scene, then I'm going to do that with this. So maybe around here, so I just want to get it relatively in a decent place. So I want to select time lapse, and then I'm going to set the first point, so it's going to be, let's start up in the trees, maybe up here, and then I'm going to set that point. So I've got my first point, and then I'm going to move it down because I want it to kind of come to here, and then set that as my second point. And then I'm going to move it around, just tilt it up a little bit, all the way around to this point, and then set my third point. And then I want to set it for, let's say, a minute is fine actually, because I don't want it to be a super long shot. Then all I do once I've set all my points is just hit start. You can see the gimbal's going back to its start point, and then it's going to start moving over the next minute. Now, for the last few differences, these may or may not be a massive deal to you, but Both have gesture recognition, but the M7 has a greater distance at 5 meters compared to the M6's 3.5 meter range. And in regards to the payload, both the gimbals have a really decent max payload, but the M7 can handle more weight with its 500-gram max payload in comparison to the M6's 400-gram max payload. And you can kind of see a difference between the two gimbals because the M7 is actually a little bit bigger, and I guess that just helps it to accommodate that extra weight as well. But it's not massively bigger, it's just marginally bigger. And in terms of the smoothness of the footage, the M7 has improved stabilization with iSteady 9.0 versus the M6's iSteady 7.0. But to be honest, no matter which gimbal you go for, the stabilization is going to be great because they both do an amazing job. So, in my opinion, the two biggest upgrades being the detachable touchscreen remote and the built-in extension rod are such great features for the iSteady M7 that I think if you shoot solo or you shoot creative B-roll shots, they make the M7 such a great upgrade from the M6. So I've dropped links in the description to both the M7 and the M6 if you want to check them out in a little bit more detail. And if you want to see how I've used the M7 so far, then I suggest checking out this video next.